welcome to Janome Club for this month, brought to you by Janome Australia. So today we are talking about the 1/4 inch piecing feet. So we're going to go over to the other camera and I'm going to show all the different feet that we have and again compare it to the 8, which I like to do. So I do have here some 9mm and 7mm feet. Our standard, I'll put these two together. Oh, that could be a 5mm.
That's 5mm.
So this is your standard A foot that it generally can sew either with your centre needle position or the full your 9mm or 7 or 5 depending on your foot, the full width of your zigzag as well. So it's got that jelly bean sort of shape through the middle, and that's your standard sort of A foot that everyone is standard foot that comes with every machine. You can then get a 1/4 inch piecing foot. So traditionally these would be for quilters or the like. That let's move my mic over there. Would be for quilters, but I also use it a lot in dressmaking type of situations where I want specific seam allowances, or top stitching is another time that I do use my 1/4 inch feet sometimes. So on your 1/4 inch feet, depending on your model, you may, depending on the model of machine that you have, you may need to either move your needle position over. So it could be selecting an actual stitch that's a quilt piecing stitch and your needle will move over, or it might be moving your needle position, or some of them like this particular O foot does work with centre needle position, and you can sort of see that one side of the foot is slightly fatter than the other, and that's because from the needle position to the little guide, it's your 1/4 inch. All of the feet have got, if I can tip it up a little bit, you've got your 1/4 inch markings down the side. So that goes from, I think I'm touching the right little, oops,
all right.
Right little point. This one here is where your needle drop position is. And then generally you have a 1/4 inch in front and behind. So that way when you're turning a corner or when you're needing to stop at a particular point, you can see exactly where your needle position is or whether you've left a 1/4 inch gap. And on the 9mm foot, you also have another guide that's on this larger piece of the foot that comes out, and that's exactly 1/4 inch on the left side of where your needle is. So they're your standard O feet, 1/4 inch piecing. There is also a 9mm foot that comes without a guide. So it's the same foot as this one, but it's got no guide on it. Then we have a range of clear feet, and this will vary a little bit depending on what model you have. And we have here, I have to get the right numbers. This one here is your OM foot. That is called your clear view 1/4 inch seam foot. Make sure I get the right one. On here is a little grid system, and these are all 1/8 of an inch markings. This one works with a centre needle position, and it has the black guide on the side. You've got little markings across the little toe and plus all the way down the side. So you've got full variant there for even when you're doing 1/8 of an inch seams, you can stop in front of or behind. This one here is the Clearview Quilting and Guide Set. So this one actually comes with 2 different guides. So I can unscrew and take this guide out. So it comes with 2 guides. This one is a ditch quilting guide, so it sits in the centre. And then there's another one which is a 1/4 inch guide. So it looks similar to that. So you get the 2 guides and the foot. And again, you do have the red markings on the foot. And because they're clear, you can obviously see through them. So you can then get exact placement for your feet. all of the feet that come blister packed will come with these backing cards, and they will always have information on them about the particular foot, and some of them even have extra information to show you. This is the one that comes with both the guides. It shows you about the two guides and information about the foot and what all the markings are for. So you do get all of that when you buy a blister packed Janome foot. I'm going to take my foot with the guide and put it on my machine. And then I might need Peter to come and move this camera. So today I am sewing, I don't know which camera are we on? Are we on that one? Okay. I am sewing on our new Continental M17, our new top of the line sewing and quilting combo. It has been a pleasure to sew on this. I think I said last month we had just launched it. So we've now had another month of having a play. So depending on what model machine you have, you'll either have a foot, as I said, that works with your centre needle position, or you need to move your needle. So there's a couple of different ways you can move your needle. Either you might have a needle position. Which screen are we on?
I'll zoom in for it.
All right. So there is a needle position adjuster on our machines, and some machines work in 5 mil increments and some work in 1 mil increments. So if you've got a 9 mil machine, you actually have 91 needle positions that you can adjust your needle drop position. So even if you wanted a seam that was slightly bigger than a 1/4 inch, but you wanted to sew with that guide, you do actually get a little bit of movement with the 9 mil feet because there's a slight jelly bean on the foot. So I can adjust my needle position. If you are taking it away from normal, just what we always say is always just check your needle drop first before you start to sew. Just to make sure that you haven't moved your needle outside what that foot wants to do. We don't want people like sewing on their feet and breaking a needle and things like that. So just always, if you do change it, always just check. The other option I've got is I can go into my quilting stitches, and I actually have a 1/4 inch foot stitch here, and that will automatically move my needle position over to the right placement for a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, on to the next thing. So the little project that came out, I don't know, we might go to that. Oh, go to this camera?
Yeah.
There we go. The little project that we put out is for a little bib. So I did make a light and a dark one.
Oh, fancy.
So if you've got little grandkids or kids that you want to sew for, this would be a really cute one to do like for their birthday or for a party they're going to. You can also do this same sort of pin tucking, even just down the front of a blouse that you're sewing. So if you're making this on a blouse for like a commercial pattern that you've bought, you do the pin tuck section first, and then you lay your pattern piece over the top once you're finished, and then cut it out, and then you'll get those beautiful little pin tucks down there. I did a dress, we did a dress with a overlocking guide. It was a couple of months ago, might have been last year actually, or the beginning of this year. It was a little pink dress we overlocked pin tucks down through the centre of the dress. You could make that same dress and just use the 1/4 inch feet to do these types of pin tucks rather than using the overlocking. So that's a little, and I'm going to take you through now sewing a couple of different techniques that were on this project. So if we go down to maybe this one, and this one can go down to the foot. Too many cameras to choose from.
We do.
I'm going to take you through showing you how I did these little pin tucks. So as I said before, if you're working from a commercial pattern of clothing and you want to do a pin tuck technique, you often will do the pin tucks first and on your bigger pieces of fabric, and then lay your pattern over the top because the pin tucks are then sewn. This also is really lovely on a, if you're making a quilt for someone where you want texture, having these little pin tucks, and then you would stitch that into the block. and it gives them then another sort of texture. You can also, once you've sewn the pin tucks, is that you can then stitch a line down the pin tucks and then stitch back in the opposite direction. You can get a beautiful sort of wave. I'm not really sure where the camera is there. You can see there that you can get a really lovely wave sort of texture happening. And that looks really pretty, like even on like the edge of placemats, or as I said, like in some blocks of some quilts. So what I've done is in the pattern, there was a little template to mark your pin tucks, and then I've taken it to the iron and I have pressed the seams. I find that the easiest way to get a nice straight seam. So I've pressed my seams, and then I'm going to, so I've selected my 1/4 inch stitch. I know my needle drop is going to be in the right position. On the M17, I actually have a little thumb wheel up here that I can wheel to check my needle drop position. Don't know if you can see that from this angle.
Just, no, can't see the thumb
wheel.
the actual
so
wheel.
up here, so rather than using my hand wheel, which you would use on other models to check your needle drop position, I have a little wheel up here, and it's called a thumb wheel for your thumb. But I find, and that way I can use that to drop my needle position to check it. And I am then going to sew. So I've got the fold here that's lining up with the guide on the foot, and then I'm going to sew along. And that will give me my perfect 1/4 inch little pin tuck. As I said, if you wanted to do a slightly different size, depending on what model machine you have, you do have the ability to adjust your guides a little bit. So adjust your needle position for your guides.
If you want to use the thumb wheel again, I can show, we can see it from the back.
Thumb wheel here. So here's my thumb wheel, and it is connected to my little needle bar. So you will see the needle bar going up and down as I roll that. So really great for when I'm sewing here and I want to check my needle drop. I don't have to take my hand off my work. I can just hold my work, use my finger, adjust that and check my needle drop position. Love that. So yeah, so you would just make your little pin tucks, and it's just a matter of folding and stitching. And once you've sewn those, you would then lay the little pattern piece that does the centre of the bib down and give this a press and then cut them out. So the other little handy tip I wanted to show you is when you need to bag something out. So bagging something out is when you have 2 pieces of fabric that you're going to sew together and you want to then turn right sides out. So I have this sort of greeny, mint green fabric. I'm going to put it down. I could even imagine that's a pocket, or that might be the bottom of the bib that we're sewing. So I'm going to sew around my seam. Again, depending on if you're making a particular pattern, a few seam allowance that the pattern calls for. Now, as you can see here, I'm now starting to go around a curve. You've got a couple of options here to help you. Depending on, again, what model you have, you may need to stop every now and then and manually raise your foot up, adjust your fabric, put your foot down, and then sew a couple of stitches. And the tighter the curve, the more often you have to do this. So I'm just raising my foot as I sew. If you have a machine that has a knee lifter, which I don't have with me here, I think it's under the table. No. There is a knee lifter that goes on a number of our models, and you use that. You push your knee out to the side and that automatically raises the foot for you. Or on this particular model, I do have a pivot function. And pivot function is available all the way down to your Skyline S7.
Can you just point that icon out again?
This one here, it's called the foot up key in your manuals.
Mm-hmm.
So once I've selected that, now when I do a stitch and stop, my foot will automatically raise up for me, so then I can adjust my feet. I can adjust my work underneath the foot, and it makes it a nice, easy seam to sew. Now, there is one other feature I'm going to show you, which is new to Janome. If I find my little stylus, we actually have a new function called the floating foot function. This is a bit of an advanced sewing technique foot, but what it allows is it actually raises up the foot slightly for you to manipulate the fabric as you're sewing. So if I turn my foot icon on, I can then raise my foot up ever so slightly. So now when I start to sew, as I sew here, I actually have full movement to sew around this seam without having to stop and readjust all the time.
Are you able to do that adjustment, the actual adjustment of the foot again?
Yep.
We can see from this side.
So I'll turn it off and hold on. I'll take it all the way up, okay?
Yep.
And then you'll be able to see. So I'm going to take it up. I'm exaggerating it so that you can actually see what's happening. I'll put my foot down as if I'm going to sew. I don't know if you can see under here. I can pretty much fit my whole fingernail in under there. There's a little screwdriver. So this is floating. So my foot is in the down position, but the whole foot is floating. So this allows me manipulation of my fabric. And it'll be really good when you're making like bears. So you've got a pile fabric. So like think velvet, wool, anything that's got that pile. Or if you're bag making and working on some vinyls, you do get what we call foot burn. And it's where the fabric is marked. This is another time when that this feature is useful. I'm going to put it back down.
So we can see the foot moving up and down. You're just adjusting that.
Yeah, I'm just adjusting the icon on the screen.
And that's adjusting the height of that.
It's adjusting the height of the foot. That's it. Yep, it's raising up now. If I turn this off and put my foot down, that means this is, see now I can't, my fabric is clamped. So, I'm starting to see.
Thank you for that indulgence, Kathy.
That's okay. Bring with me some pinking shears. I may not have brought them down here. I picked up pinking shears, but oh well. Maybe Melissa might be able to run down from my office with them. So normally if you've got a curve, I'm not sure. Yep. Right. When you've got a curve, you need to what we call clip into the curve to be able to turn it out. Otherwise, if I just turn this straight out, this is not too bad because it's a smoother sort of curve, but you often end up with these like spiky like corners. So we want to clip into this curve. So generally you would get some scissors and we would clip like this around your curve, and the tighter your curve, the more you would clip. But my other handy trick is with pinking shears, and I love this because it is so quick. I just take my curve and I use my pinking shears and I would cut like that. And then, so that is now like the same as like clipping all the way along there. And I can turn my item out. Then give that a nice press. Finger press here. And you get a really nice curved seam. I'm going
Very
to
nice.
show you another little trick. This one is for square seams, square corners. So I've got a square here. So I'm going to sew down. I'll just show you one corner. So I'm going to sew down, and because I can use the markings on the foot, plus last month we talked about the markings on your needle plates. So I'm going to utilise this 1/4 inch mark that's on my foot, plus the guide, plus my 1/4 inch here. So I've got all these guides that tell me where I can stop so that I can stop a 1/4 inch before I get to the end of the corner of my fabric. one more stitch. And I've stopped exactly into that corner. So when I turn around here, my fabric now lines perfectly up with that guide. Stitch my other side. Now, a lot of patterns, they'll show you then would clip into this corner. This is a bit of an industrial sewing technique that when you clip that corner, it does create a weak point. And this is a little handy trick for turning that point out without any clipping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my thumb, and my thumb goes up inside the part that I'm turning. And then I'm going to use my fingers and I'm going to fold over one side of my seam. And I'm going to fold over the second part of my seam so that it's folded down right against my stitch lines. And I pinch that with my two fingers. And then you roll it out. And you get a perfect little point there without having to do any clipping. Now, this technique will only work on a 90-degree or larger. So if you've got a wider, if you've got a skinny little thing like the end of like a collar, sometimes the collar point might come down something really skinny like that. That's something quite different, and you do have to trim that one. But if you've got your square corners, your 90 degrees or larger, you don't have to clip. You can do that lovely little technique. What else can we do with these bits? The other thing that I've done is a little bit of top stitching around the bib. So that's another one that we can utilize this foot for. So I've made my little outfit. I'm going to take that to the iron and press it. And now I can utilize the guide on here, or if I had my foot, the little OM, that one. Yeah. So I've got this, the OM, which has got your 1/8 of an inch marking. So I'll swap over to that one. And put my needle back into centre needle position. Now I'm going to use the little 1/8 of an inch guide on this foot. And I can then stitch here. And I will get a perfect 1/8 of an inch top stitching. Still on this one. Yeah. So there's my little top stitching through there. So if you want to know which feet suit your model machine, you can contact your local Janome Stockist. I'm not sure where the camera.
I'll go back to number one.
Go back to camera number one. You should have them labelled so I know which ones are on. So if you want to know which particular feet fit your model machine, you can contact your local Janome Stockist, and they'll easily be able to tell you. Peter's shaking his head and nodding his head. They'll be able to tell you which particular foot you can get for your model machine, and also how you would adjust your machine if you need to, as far as needle positions and things like that. So if you're not sure how to do that, contact the store where you bought your machine from, and they can run you through how to do it for your particular model. And we hope to see some of you that might be in Brisbane next weekend. We will be at AQC. So from, what is it, Thursday the 20... I
don't know, 27th maybe?
26th, I'm trying to look over at the calendar. From the 26th, Thursday the 26th to the 27th of May, it's at the Convention Centre in Brisbane. In Hall 1. 26 to 29?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can't read the numbers from here.
That's okay.
It's all the way over on the other wall, on the other side of this room. We will be at AQC, so please come along and say hello to us. I'll be there on the Continental M17 showing off some of the lovely features that the machine has, and you could come and have a look at it yourself. And hopefully we'll see you there. Introduce yourself if you come up and say hello. And thank you very much for joining us for the club this month.